ask me, what is the secret to a successful thru hike? I would say that it could be narrowed down to 3 factors. And these factors are having enough money, keeping yourself physically healthy, and keeping yourself mentally healthy out on the trail. And if you're wondering, Audrey, do you have a hammock in your apartment? The answer is yes. Yes, I do. I have one outside of my apartment. I have one inside of my apartment. Because, hey guys, I like to chill out. Okay, so let's talk through, I have a bunch of tips basically related to these 3 factors that I want to share with you guys today. Because I do feel like this is a big source of anxiety for a lot of people going into a big thru hike like one of the Appalachian Trail. And having hiked it myself, I really think that these 3 factors are what helped me to finish the trail. And if you guys watch my channel, you know that in some areas, physical health, I could have done better. And I think that being more physically healthy would have helped me remain, more mentally healthy. Even though I did make it the whole way and I loved my experience so much, I feel like I could have even done better. So because it is thru hiker season, a bunch of you are about to go out on the trail. You're hoping to make it all the way from Georgia to Maine, or you're doing another long trail like the PCT, or even a shorter one like the Long Trail or the Colorado Trail. So I figured I would talk through these factors and just give you my thoughts on what you can do to make sure that your thru hike is successful. And before we get started, please do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to my channel for more hiking, backpacking, Appalachian Trail, and Colorado content. This year, I'm going to be thru hiking the 76-mile Foothills Trail in North Carolina and South Carolina, and I'm going to be thru hiking the 500-ish mile Colorado Trail from Denver to Durango, along with some other shorter weekend trips as well. So if you guys are interested in any of those, definitely subscribe to my channel. And also check me out on Instagram over at Audrey Payne to get more real-time updates. Let's talk about money first. I know people hate talking about money. They hate hearing about money. They hate hearing how much it costs a thru hike. I've talked about this over and over and over, and every time I talk about it, I get flack from people because they just want to believe that doing thru hike, you're like living out in the woods for months on end. It should be free. But that is not the reality of our society, especially because you gotta eat. If nothing else, you gotta eat. And you are burning off a ton of calories when you are thru hiking. So even if you're like one of those people that's like, well, I'm gonna hunt and fish and gather while I'm out on the trail, I'm not gonna get into the logistics of any of that. All I'm really gonna say about it is that you are burning a ton of calories when you are hiking up and over mountains with a backpack strapped to you all day, every day. And it is very unlikely, in my opinion, that you could get enough calories living off the land to do that all day, every day. Maybe there are some of you out there that are capable of doing that, but most of you are probably not. So at the very least, you are going to have to pay for food. You are also probably going to have to pay for a place to stay, like at least once a week, because you want to shower and do your laundry and sleep in a bed. You're also going to have to pay to do your laundry. You're also going to have to buy things like fuel canisters for your stove. You're occasionally going to have to pay for shuttles, although mostly you're probably going to hitchhike, but sometimes you might have to pay for shuttles. Some of your gear might break, you might need to replace it. Some of your gear might not work for you, you might need to replace it. You have to get a permit to go through the Smokies, which costs money. You get the idea. But anyway, so generally the cost of an Appalachian Trail thru hike, according to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, is about $1,000 per month that you're on trail. Usually takes people between 5 and 7 months to complete a thru hike, so that is $5,000 to $7,000. And that is not taking into account bills back home, having to go to the doctor if you have an injury or an illness or something, having to stay in a hostel or a hotel for a few days or a couple of weeks if you do get an injury and need to nurse it. So just bear that in mind, that it does cost money. And I've heard that the Pacific Crest Trail, for example, costs even more. It's more expensive than the AT. So I bring up the subject of money in the secret of being successful in a thru hike, because running out of money is one of the biggest reasons that people get off the trail, that they fail at a thru hike. So I would just say, make sure that you have enough money, more than you think you need. And if you have a limited amount of funds, make sure that you are budgeting and you are following a budget. Like, how much can you afford to spend every week, every month? What are the things that you have to spend money on? Where can you cut corners? Staying out of towns, for example, is a really good way to cut down on your expenses. Towns are a money suck. If you can just get in, get your resupply, get back on the trail, you're gonna spend a lot less money than if you go into town and start hanging around with other hikers who wanna eat at restaurants, who wanna drink beers, who wanna, stay the night inside. There are definitely ways to cut down your expenses, and like, people can definitely thru hike for less money than $1,000 per month, but it is gonna be tough. So you just have to be very cognizant of where you are financially and keep an eye on how much you are spending and stick to that budget if you need to. So that's my thoughts on money. Let's move on to keeping yourself physically healthy. Obviously, when you are hiking up and over mountains every day with a backpack, you need your body to cooperate with you. And the second biggest reason, well, I don't know what the order is, money or this one, but the other big reason that people get off trail is because they get injured and they are forced off trail. Or they get injured and they already wanted to get off trail and then they use it as an excuse. But either way, injury, a big reason that people get off the trail. Obviously, some of this is luck, but I have a bunch of tips for you on how to keep yourself physically healthy so that you can hopefully stay on the trail. Number one, train ahead of time. It is tough on your body. Thru hiking is tough on your body, and you are only going to do yourself a favor by training ahead of time with a backpack, getting your muscles ready so that it's not a total shock to the system, so that you're not sore for weeks on end. Train ahead of time. Take rest days when you need them. If you are feeling sore, if something is bothering you, your knee or your ankle or your foot or your shoulder or something, take a rest day. It is not a race. And a saying that I love on the AT is, if it was a race, the last one to Katana would win, because it's really fun and you don't need to race through it, and it's not a competition, and you don't have to keep up with other people that are hiking faster than you, and you don't have to not take a rest day because you want to keep up with other people. You have to listen to your body. That is probably the most important thing on a thru hike, is listening to your body. And if you feel like something is off or something needs rest, or you just generally need rest, take the rest. I would also say, do not try to push too many miles right out the gate when you start a thru hike, especially if you haven't done one before or you're not a super experienced backpacker. Because again, like, when you start hiking all day, every day with a backpack, it's hard on your body. And if you haven't been doing that regularly, or you're new to this, your body needs time to adjust. Your muscles need time to build up. It's not a race, and you see a lot of people out there who start doing big miles right off the bat, and then you see them not too long later in a town, just sitting in a town because they've gotten injured. So don't be one of those people. Something else that's really gonna help you keep your body physically healthy is keeping your pack weight down. Do your research ahead of the trail. Even if you don't have a lot of money to spend, you can get used gear potentially, but try to get your pack weight down. Don't bring things you don't need. Get the lightest gear that you can afford. Do your research, make sure that your gear is working for you. I would recommend your big three, your pack, your sleeping bag, and your tent should all be, if you can afford it, should all be under 2 pounds. I'm not an ultralight hiker, I'm not an ultralight backpacker, but I do see the value in not bogging yourself down with extra weight of extra things you don't need. So if you know an experienced backpacker or a former thru hiker, ask them to give you a shakedown. Ask them to go through your pack and look at your stuff and see what they think that you need and what you don't need. And if they don't think you need it, you really got to think like, do I need this? Why am I going to carry this if I don't need it? You can also take yourself on a shakedown hike. Go out for a few days, even just a weekend. Go for a backpacking trip. Test out your gear. Again, see what you use, see what you don't use. If you didn't use something, is this something that you actually need to bring? And don't be like me and bring like a bunch of extra food out there with you, because food is heavy, especially things like bars. Like, I forever on the AT would just have bars in my pack that I would never freaking touch because I got sick of bars so quickly. And I was always like, well, I'm gonna hang out at these bars in case I find that my hunger really ramps up and I run out of other food, and then maybe I'll just eat these bars. Spoiler, I would never freaking eat the bars. They would just take up weight in my pack. I'm the worst. I always have too much food, even still. It's like they say you carry your fears on your back. I actually think I'm more afraid of being cold than being hungry, but apparently I'm also a little afraid of being hungry because I always have way too much food. I would also recommend that you always filter your water, that you go to your doctor ahead of time and ask them what medications maybe they think you should bring. I brought just like a general antibiotic out on the trail with me in case I ended up with an ear infection or something like that. I also brought out some Giardia medication in case I picked up Giardia, because goodness knows, like, nobody wants to have that while they're out hiking in the woods, living in the woods. I would recommend you always hand sanitize or sanitize your hands. Wash them every chance that you get. Do not let other people reach into your food bag. Do not reach into other people's food bags because you don't know what germs they're carrying around. Make sure you're getting some sort of nutrients in the things that you're eating. Don't live just on junk food. A lot of people out there end up with protein deficiencies and their muscles start breaking down. It smells like ammonia. This happened to my friend head chef, and he was a big dude before the trail. Like, he loves to lift weights, all that jazz. He ended up smelling like straight up ammonia because his muscles were eating themselves. I ended up with anemia, which is very common in women of childbearing age, and it makes you very tired, and it makes your hair fall out, and it makes hiking even harder than it normally would be because you're not getting enough oxygen. So make sure you're getting some nutritious foods out there when you go to towns. Make sure you're eating some nutritious, fresh foods, getting enough protein, getting enough healthy fats, all of that. And then you can talk to your doctor about this too, but like, I would recommend taking a multivitamin, and I now take iron pills regularly as well to avoid the anemia. But you got to take care of, you can't just be physically fit, you got to take care of your nutrition as well. And finally, for physical health, take care of your feet. Your feet are so freaking important when you're out backpacking. If you start feeling hot spots, treat those right away. Treat them as if they were already blisters. You want to cover those babies. You don't want them turning into blisters. And if you do get blisters, again, like, make sure you're covering those. Make sure you're treating them, because they can ruin your day really fast if you are not taking care of them. I'm not going to go into blister care specifically, but I will put some links in the show notes below in case you guys want to learn more about that. And on that same topic of blisters, if you are continually getting blisters out on the trail, I want you to know that that is not normal. I only got blisters 1 week while I was on the trail. It was because it rained every single day. I could not get my shoes dry. Like, I was just living in wet feet for the entire week. But it is not normal to get blisters over and over and over and have them constantly. So if you are getting blisters, that means something is not working for you. You gotta maybe get different shoes, maybe ones in a bigger size. What a lot of newbie backpackers don't know, or newbie thru hikers, is that your feet are gonna swell when you're on them all day carrying around a bunch of weight. And so you're probably gonna need a bigger shoe size than you would normally while you're out backpacking. And this is especially true because it's also important that you have like good quality socks out on the trail. I like to use Darn Toughs myself, but there are lots of different brands of hiker shoes. They're cushioned, they're moisture wicking, they're great. So those are, pulling moisture, pulling your sweat away from your feet so that like things aren't constantly rubbing. And I also like to wear sock liners. You can get them at REI, any outdoor store. A lot of times they're silk or polyester, but those also help to prevent blisters. So again, like, if you are continually getting blisters, you probably need new shoes or new socks, or maybe both, probably shoes though. And finally, let's talk about taking care of your mental health. A thru hike can be incredibly mentally draining. No matter how much you like hiking or how excited you are to be out there, inevitably you are sometimes gonna have bad days on the trail. Another saying that I really love is, any day on the trail is better than any day in the office. But sometimes when you're having an especially bad day on the trail, you might rather be in the office just for that day, of course. So I have some strategies to kind of get me through those mentally tough days that I want to share with you guys because I feel like they could be helpful for other people. So first of all, get clear on why you are hiking. Like what's taking you out on the trail? What's taking you away from your life and society for 6 months at a time? Like, why are you diving into this adventure? Get clear on why you're doing it and what you hope to achieve or get out of the experience. And maybe write those down or put them in the notes app on your phone. And if you're having a tough day, just revisit those things. Also, find things along the way on the trail that you are excited to experience. I have a really amazing best friend from college. Her name is Kristen. Hi, Kristen, if you ever watch this, I love you. But before I did the AT, actually a couple of years before I did it, I was talking about the idea of doing it. And she just really picked up on that this was something that I was just really wanted to accomplish in my life. And so she's a really freaking supportive person. And so she bought me this book. It's called Mountain Adventure, Exploring the Appalachian Trail. And it's from the 1980s. And it's just like this goofy, like story picture book, you know, with all these beautiful pictures of the AT from the 80s. And inside the book, she found several things that just jumped out to her as being like cool or exciting or whatever. And she put notes in there for me on things that I was supposed to take pictures of or take notes about and things like that. So that when I finally got out to the AT, I already had things that I was excited to see and experience because she had like given me kind of a little scavenger hunt by giving me this book. And it also helped me to learn more about the trail. One of the things, for example, in here was to get my photo taken at McAfee Knob in Virginia, which is the most photographed place on the entire AT. And so, you know, while I was struggling through Georgia and North Carolina and Tennessee, I knew that once the time came, this place in Virginia, I could cross off one of those tasks that she gave me. And I'm not saying that you need to go out to the trail with homework or that you need to get like a retro book and like find tasks for yourself. I'm just saying that that was a way for me to like mentally connect with the trail before I was even there and to kind of have a way to, you know, make me even more excited and just really connect with these points that were ahead of me northbound. And also it was a way for my friend to support me and for me to feel a connection with her on the trail as well, even when I wasn't with her. Because she did not, she's got kids. She was not hiking the AT, but so supportive of her. And by the way, she also bought me one for the Pacific Crest Trail, which I really want to do in the future. So I told her, I was like, when she gave me this as a gift, I was like, wow, this means that I'm really gonna end up doing the PCT because I feel like this book is a sign. Not that I really question that I'm gonna do the PCT at some point, but it just made it feel more real. So get yourself a supportive friend like Kristen. So along those same lines, like develop a little support network for yourself back home or among your friends or family of people that can help you through when you are having tough days. Make sure that you have a friend or a family member or two that you can call if you're having a tough day, and they will just encourage you and support you through this experience, rather than being those types of people who might be like, oh, well, it sounds like you're not having fun, so maybe you should quit, or maybe you should give up, or maybe it's time to come home. I mean, of course, like if you really are not liking the experience, like there's no shame in quitting. But if you're just having a tough day, you should have someone that you can call who's just gonna be there to support you and have some compassion for your experience and encourage you that tomorrow is going to be better. So set up that support system for yourself in advance. Identify some people that you can call in the event that you're having a tough day and you need some outside support. I would also note that trail people are awesome And if you want to make friends out on the AT, for example, it's going to be really easy to do so because everyone out there is just, well, not everyone, but most people out there are just so thrilled that they get to live this experience and just have this amazing adventure that, I mean, the happiness out on trail, the excitement out on trail, you can feel it and it's so contagious. I mean, you guys listen to me talk. It's been years since I did my thru hike at the AT. I'm still freaking talking about it. I mean, part of the reason for that is that people keep asking me for more information and more content about the AT, but like a very big part of it is just that I loved my experience so freaking much, and I just love to share the joy of it. And I'm so excited for you guys that are like coming into a thru hike and get to go have this big adventure. And if you want to be around other enthusiastic hikers on the trail, you can be. So if someone out on the trail is bogging you down, maybe it's time to find somebody else to hike with. It's really easy to find people to hike with out there. And also, they can be a big system of support for you out there. I hiked most of the AT with a trail family, and they were an enormous source of support. Just to be able to say like, hey, we both experienced like climbing up this big freaking mountain today. Like, can we commiserate on how much that sucked? But then can we also share this beautiful sunset together and remind ourselves like what a joy this is? Another tip I have is that if you are struggling through the mental game of hiking, maybe for a few days in a row and you just kind of can't shake it, maybe find some other things along the trail that you're excited to do that are not necessarily hiking. Maybe once you get to the next town, you could take yourself out for a nice meal, or you could take yourself to a movie, or you could take a Nero day and swim in a creek and just chill out and enjoy something else besides hiking. And you can stop pushing yourself for a few hours. You know what I mean? Just find joy in things aside from hiking if it is the hiking aspect that is bogging you down. On that same note, I would also recommend ahead of getting out there or on your next town stop when you have internet or cell phone reception, download some podcasts, some music, some audiobooks. Make yourself a pump up playlist to get you through really tough climbs. Just give yourself some things to help distract you when you are having a mentally tough day, because it's inevitable that mentally tough days will happen. I freaking loved my experience. I was so happy to be out there, and my friend Ibex that I hiked pretty much the whole thing with was the same way, but that's not to say we never had a tough day. Trust me, there were days when I was only getting through the climbs because I was listening to some EDM or I was listening to a book or something else to like get me mentally somewhere else. Not that I wanted to be somewhere else, but you know what I mean. To distract me from my own self as I was like slogging up a mountain. We all have those days. You probably will too. And I think that it would be wrong not to say that sometimes caffeine also just got me through some climbs. I am a big caffeine person. Even out on the trail, I have my coffee every single morning. And most days that was it. I would just have caffeine in the morning. But some days I needed a little extra in the afternoon. So I would always be sure to have like some caffeinated noons or some of those like Starbucks iced coffee mixes, something to just give me a little extra push on the days when I needed a little extra push, even beyond my EDM playlist. But combine the EDM playlist with some caffeine, and then we were talking. But more than anything, I think just give yourself grace and recognize that everyone has bad days, and just be prepared and have a plan for when you do. So there you have it. That is what I consider the secret to a successful thru hike. If you have thru hiked a trail before and you have other ideas on what the secret is to being successful at hiking it, then let me know down in the comments. If you are heading out on a long trail this year, doing a thru hike yourself, or even a long ass section hike as they like to call them, a lash, then also let me know that in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And as always, you guys, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time.